Just how big is the world map in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? We saw a clip of Yuffie and Red 13 in the trailer with a distance to the objective marker reading over 11,000 meters. That is crazy. 11,000 meters is significantly further than any other destination we saw in that trailer. What we are looking at is the full map taken from the mobile Final Fantasy VII game Ever Crisis. It is extremely detailed and almost too detailed to not consider as a pulled asset directly from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, especially since we've seen some Final Fantasy VII Remake assets being utilized in that game. This could very well be the world map being used in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. With that being said, PlayStation blog written by Gillen McAllister, quote from Naoki Hamaguchi, the director of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Quote, Horizon Zero Dawn, the first game of the franchise, left a huge impression on me as a game creator. I was taken by the deep, immersive experience provided by the unbelievable graphics as well as the unique world I found myself in. In the sense that the next title is expected to evolve even further, Final Fantasy VII Remake, in which I am in charge of, is expected to do the same way. For that, I have a personal affinity for Horizon. End quote. So I will be referencing the Horizon series for this map breakdown as well. If Aloy stands on one side of the map and the player places an objective marker on the other side, it is just about 7,000 steps. Now Rebirth uses meters instead of steps as a form of measurement, so allow me to do some math. According to healthreporter.com, height times 1.14 equals the stride length. A stride is 2 steps, so we'll divide that answer by 2 in order to get the steps taken. Aloy is 5 foot 6 inches, so 66 inches times 1.14 equals 75.24 inches, divided by 12 to get 6.27 feet. Divide that by 2 to get the distance traveled by taking 1 step at running speed to equal 3.13 feet. So we'll say that Aloy travels about 3 feet per step when running. Again, this is a super rough estimate here, but 7,000 steps times 3 feet equals 21,000 feet. But Rebirth is in meters, not feet. So 21,000 feet can be converted into 6,400 meters. What I'm saying is, Rebirth seems to have a larger world than Horizon Forbidden West. To put that into perspective a bit more, because Horizon isn't the largest gaming world, and neither is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but that is the example I'm going to use. Valhalla is approximately 13,800 meters from the furthest southeast point to the most northwestern point of the England map. 13,800 meters is slightly larger than 11,000 meters. But this distance in Rebirth is just from wherever point A is to wherever point B is. So we don't even know what the full extent of the Rebirth map is. I had made a video on why I think Rebirth will not be a fully open world, and I still stand by that reasoning. I broke down the real math as to why it would be unfathomably large and would never work at scale. I seriously doubt we'll see a full-scale city of Midgar plopped right in the middle of an open world, but it can be cleverly gated off with the classic Final Fantasy blue dots and I don't know, maybe some mountain ranges disguising its true scale. Pass through those blue dots and the game will ask if you want to enter the city. It is possible that the world map is separated into a few separate open worlds, sort of how Assassin's Creed Valhalla did with England and Norway. But Rebirth does this with maybe its 2 major continents and then some linear path lands such as Wutai, Midil, and others. Let's bring these comparisons closer to home, shall we? 2016's Final Fantasy XV gave us a fully open world to run, drive, and even fly around in, which is something Final Fantasy VII will hopefully take into consideration as the original featured beloved modes of transportations like the buggy, tiny bronco, and of course the Highwind. Well, Final Fantasy XV's map is very impressive with a scale of 780 square miles. One of the farthest distance you can travel from point A to point B on that map is approximately 6.5 miles in a straight line, which converts over to about 10,460 meters. If Final Fantasy XV can do it, well, maybe Rebirth can too. But let's try and keep in mind an open world of this scale is not easy to do, especially when you think about how this would be a literal world. Not just a city or continent on a world, but an actual globe, a spherical world in which you can travel east of Midgar and eventually end up on the west side of Midgar. I keep reiterating this point because I don't know if it's ever been done in a modern game before, which would be revolutionary and awesome, and Final Fantasy VII should be those things. That's just, it's just, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back, okay? So I just can't wrap my head around that fully open world concept just yet. But again, we'll talk about that in a future video. This year's Final Fantasy XVI gave us a world map to explore with 4 large zones, 3 in the western continent of Storm and 1 zone covering the entirety of the eastern continent of Ash. The southernmost part of that continent of Ash to the northernmost traversable part is 2,288 yards, or this could be taken as yalms according to Final Fantasy XIV's units of distance, which from my understanding is the same as a yard, or maybe even a step while running, which we determined earlier was 3 feet. And what do you know? That's a yard! All that math earlier was useless and just to make me sound smart. 2,288 yards is about 2,092 meters. This distance is a straight line to the destination, but Final Fantasy XVI is a large zone of interconnecting paths and areas. So you have to stay on the path. You can't just go over this mountain here. This is also how Final Fantasy VII Remake did it, where the distance was measured in meters in a straight line, but the player needed to follow paths in order to get there. So for the final reference, it's oddly going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I should have probably led with. From the Sector 5 Undercity Church to the Sector 6 Undercity Evergreen Park is approximately 1,500 meters. This is, of course, with winding paths and lots of squeeze holes. So subscribe for the next video where I talk about how exploration could be handled in Rebirth. Open world with gated off cities, zones with interconnecting open areas, among a few other ideas. Regardless, boy oh boy, the freedom of Rebirth's open areas is going to feel so good. Thank you to our FFTV icon, Badly Brave, and to all our Patreon and Coffee supporters. And to you, thank you for watching. Take care now. Bye-bye then.